Just get into it.
Big energy. Hi, everybody. It's Christopher Saul.
Hey, it's Paul Schoberg.
And we are here to tell you the Niceville-related news that you need to know this week and some stuff from further afield, but we'll jump right into it. The first thing first, we now have a race for the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. That's exactly right. If you were looking for yet another race for us to cover, we got it for you. The big news this week is that Ron Livingston, an FHP trooper for 32 years, a trainer for 24 of those years, is now in this race. Of course, Sheriff Eric Aiden, who is looking to get his second term, is also in this race. And
was uncontested until yesterday.
It was uncontested until yesterday when I went to take a look at the all the candidates, just to make sure somebody hadn't slipped in there.
Sure enough, someone did.
And by golly, fellas, look who showed up. Anyway, that race, of course, like all the other primary races, takes place on August 20th. Mr. Livingston, or Sergeant Livingston, has a long track ahead of him because of just the sheer amount of money that Eric Aiden has in the bank to spend.
Yeah, incumbency is hard to overcome.
I mean,
for sure.
He's got, I think I remember seeing $130-something thousand. I'll put the number in the notes somewhere. But long story short, it's going to be an interesting race, especially with all the national attention that the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office has gotten in the last 6 months.
Yeah, this would be the right time to upset an incumbent, I think.
Yes, it is, and that's why this one's going to be pretty interesting, I think. But we'll see.
Yeah,
it's always like that, right? We'll just see. August 20th is the deadline, or is the voting day. Deadline to vote is a month before that, which means if you're not registered to vote, register to vote.
Please vote. Voting is important.
Right there in the bottom is where we're putting the link. But vote, just once. Thanks. Anyway, moving on to what I think is probably going to be your favorite topic of all time.
I can't wait.
The children are getting NIL deals, fellas.
Name, image, and likeness.
Name, image, and likeness deals. Basically, the high school kids playing the sports or doing really anything can now sell their likeness as amateurs and make money off of it, just like the college kids.
So this is going to be the big topic for today, so we won't go into significant detail now. But if you're a purist, you already think the college game is ruined. Well, now it's coming for the high school game. Yeah. And we'll talk more about what we think will happen here locally.
It's going to be a fun little discussion, and I can't wait. Because as an SMU guy, you know, if you ain't cheating,
you
ain't trying.
Nor you're winning.
Hey, first of all, I'll have you know we won the American Conference last. I don't need this. Anyway, if you want to pay more in taxes or get fewer services in the long run, I've got a great thing for you to vote for this November.
Can't wait to hear it.
Yes, constitutional amendments are on the ballot in November, and one of them looks too good to be true because it is. Anyway, moving to...
You're supposed to be the news guy, not the opinion guy.
Look, I'm just saying the stats bear it out.
Okay.
All right.
Well, let's hear more about it.
Next up, we'll be talking a little bit about Catholic schools and the potential for us to have one. So
I think it's coming.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Based on a conversation that we went to yesterday, a big group meeting, lots of people there that are excited and interested in Catholic schooling for their kids. But I guess we'll take it from the top back again and talk a little bit more about this sheriff's office race. So, as we said, we got about a month and a half, little more than a month and a half, until Election Day for the primaries. So everybody can vote in this race. Typically, primaries in Florida are closed, but there's an exception to that rule where if there's no anybody from any other parties running for, in this case, the sheriff's office, you get to run, or you get to vote no matter what your party affiliation is. So that means if you register as a Democrat or an independent or some third party, or as a Republican, which both of these candidates are, you can vote in this election. So we're going to be updating our website, midbaynews.com/elections, where you'll be able to see all the information about these candidates that we can find, who's donated money to them, what their platform is. It's all going to be right there, and hopefully will be to your benefit. So we would really hope that you use our midbaynews.com/elections platform, because I've spent way too much time on it.
Well, no, you have to take a lot of credit for that, because I don't know where else anyone would get the information from. Yeah. So we know the other news outlets were too small for them, and so without this guy putting in the effort, I don't think voters would be as informed. Yeah. So thank you for that.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Moving on, a little more in depth to talk about these more taxes or losing services that I kind of teased up at the top.
Yeah.
There is a ballot amendment, a referendum that's coming up in November. So the general election, so primary election when we're going to decide the sheriff is in August. And then the general election, we vote for president and Congress and all these other offices. That's going to be in November. We're going to have 5 ballot measures on there. And one of them is to give you a property tax exemption, an additional homestead exemption on your property taxes if you live in your home. So the idea being that, hey, this one in particular would adjust for inflation. So let's say there's 3% inflation this year. Your homestead exemption would go from $25,000 to $25,600.
So it's not an additional exemption, it's just...
it adjusts it for inflation.
Just adjustment for inflation.
And so what that ends up doing is it reduces some of the taxing powers at that level, at that rate that the city council is able to levy. So here in the city of Niceville, we have a millage rate of 4, which gives you a certain amount of money per $100,000 on your tax. Basically, your house is worth X dollars, you pay Y dollars every year on your taxes. Yep. This would make sure that your homestead exemption, so let's say your house is $475,000 of value, and you get a $25,000 exemption. Now you get a $25,600 exemption next year. So not in the grand scheme of things for individuals, not a ton of extra money coming into your pocket, but it does mean a lot for the cities that have to make up that budget shortfall, which can, in our case in the city, be hundreds of thousands of dollars, or for the county it could be millions of dollars. And they have to make that up somehow. And so if this is voted in, what that means for the cities and the counties, they have to make a decision. Are they going to reduce services?
Or artificially raise the millage rate?
Are they going to raise your taxes? And I can tell you right now that the outcry from people saying, oh, we can just cut the police officers or the water and sewer department or something like that, that's not something that people typically want to do when they're in an elected office. And so you might see a tax increase to cover that cost. So choice is yours.
It's all a game, people. It's all a game.
It's literally, and I think I wrote this in the story, it's a shell game.
It's a shell game.
Basically, the state legislature wants to look really good in an election year.
Sure, why not? They play the games at all levels. Both sides do.
They absolutely do, so I'm not faulting them for that.
Yeah.
They got to do what they got to do. But you need to be aware of what's going to happen. And that means either a cut in services or a increase in your millage rate to cover the taxes. The other thing to cover is that because so many people in our area are exempt because of their military service, if you're a 100% disabled veteran, you don't pay any property taxes, right? And so that means that that money that they would have paid has to be distributed across everybody else, and everybody else has to pay that property tax.
True.
Not begrudging them that, just saying that, hey, that means
how it works.
Yeah, that means that you're going to have to pay more than the ratio that you were paying previously, more or less.
Fair.
Something to look out for. And of course, it's much better explained and written and logically thought out on midbaynews.com than my little spiel here. I hope everybody's still awake after that math lesson. Anyway, finally, Catholic school update. I think that you have a lot more understanding of this than I do right now. So you want to lead on this one?
Sure. I think we talked about it a little bit a couple weeks ago, but fundamentally what I said was going to happen is happening when the state has created something amazing where you can get $7,800, almost $8,000 for each one of your kids to go to whatever school you want them to go to. You're going to have independent schools popping up. And so I think based on what I saw this past weekend at Third Planet where they held the meeting, there is a significant interest in bringing an independent Catholic school to the area. And Holy Name of Jesus is an example of a local Catholic church that has lots of acreage, but also has some facilities and buildings that they could already utilize for a startup school. So I think over time you'll see more of these pop up in different denominations of Christian faiths, and maybe some independent homeschool co-ops, even more than Classical Conversations and some of the other ones that are already here will start popping up as well. And so I think it's great that parents have school choice, and I think it's something that the Okaloosa County school system is going to have to pay attention to.
That was the thing that was going to come off my lips next was the $7,800 doesn't just magically appear. It gets taken out of the county public schools budget, right?
Correct.
And so,
at least that's my understanding.
So my understanding is okay. So they're going to have a decrease in funding.
Yep.
But it does also provide opportunities for parents to see how they want their kids to get educated and educate them that way.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily such a bad thing. I guess I want to see what the state does in response, because my understanding is that there's been a massive shift into these private schools that have taken away from these public schools, moved these kids out of these public schools, and what the state is going to say when there's not a critical mass for public education anymore. Are they going to abandon public education? Would we see a elimination of our school district property taxes, stuff like that?
No, I don't think it'll ever go that far. I think you'll just see more choice, and it just gives upstart schools the opportunity to have a little bit more, budget and feel like they can take the risk.
Do you? To me, what it sounded like in the meeting yesterday is that the $7,800 for tuition is a huge hurdle that has been jumped for parents already. Do you see that translating into quickly taking care of like capital costs, like building a building, things like that?
No, I mean, I think a lot of times the churches and different organizations are going to have to come up with their own capital campaigns to cover infrastructure and facilities. But what I think it does do is it sets a pretty good start for parents to be willing to put their kids in private school, whereas the cost had always been a hurdle before. Now a good chunk of the cost is taken care of. I mean, that meeting was impressive this past weekend. There was probably close to 150 people there. And there were definitely folks I know who couldn't make it. That would have pushed it closer to 200. So I think there's an upswell, and I think this is just one example, and we'll probably see more over time. And
so when you said almost cover, right, my understanding was that it's like for schools around here. So St. Mary's is like $8,400 a year, right? So that's $600 a year for a parent.
Yeah, I won't quote tuition for the various private schools off the top of my head because I don't know them. But typically it ranges from anywhere from $7,000 up to $12,000 to $13,000 around here to send one child to private school, and people are doing it. They're somehow making that work without the state's help until this year, and now with the state's help, I think more kids will have access to it.
I think I'm very interested to see how radical the change is in terms of movement away from a public school, because that's essentially what it'd be, right?
Yeah.
And what that will mean for faith communities around here, like you said, especially, right? Like how many Christian schools are we going to see? How many homeschool co-ops?
Yeah.
Where I came from in Atlanta, we had every kind of private school you'd ever want, and I'm interested to see if it goes that far. I don't think we're going to have an Orthodox Jewish academy because we don't have a lot of Orthodox Jewish people. We just don't have those
numbers. Yeah,
right?
We don't have those numbers.
But just to see what the spread will be in 10 years' time is going to be fascinating.
Yep.
But that brings us to the big topic.
Let's do it.
Which is, how many of these kids that go to this Catholic school are going to get NIL deals with the Pope? And
no.
And why is my son going to get the biggest NIL deal? All right. So kind of walk us through what NIL is at the college level and
Sure.
What it means to have an NIL deal.
Yeah, so this goes way back to, I think the 1990s, early 2000s. Ed O'Bannon at UCLA and a group got together and basically sued the NCAA because there were video games and jerseys being sold, and college kids used to not be able to get any access to those funds. And so over time, this is developed into NIL, name, image, and likeness. And the college players are getting paid to put their faces on stuff and show up in commercials. And a lot of purists hate it. A lot of purists really hate it. But now it's working its way down the ladder, as you would expect.
Sure.
Once college has it, the high school kids deserve it too, I guess. But I think how it rolls out and how lucrative it really is, I think there's going to be sort of the barbell thing where you have some kids at the top who are 5-star, 4-star athletes, could get recruited to different schools than they were planning to attend previously. You might also have more kids transferring from high school to high school. Some of this stuff happens already, but NIL is just going to make it happen more often. And we have kids that transfer into Niceville and play sports at Niceville, and we've had some who are playing sports at Niceville that shouldn't have been based on where they lived, and we've self-reported those things in the past. But I would love to be the fly on the wall to the head football coach at Niceville to understand what his thinking on it is, and does he all of a sudden have a coach who's now in charge of NIL and starting to talk to the community, and maybe you start with some of those businesses that are flying their flags and their signs in and around the stadium, and see if they're willing to help pay the rent. Yeah. So all of a sudden a kid can move here from Georgia because his family's rent is covered here in Niceville, and all of a sudden we got more 4- and 5-star recruits showing up inside Niceville.
So I tried to reach out to Niceville's head coach. I wasn't able to get him, but I was able to get Crestview's head coach, Thomas Grant, and he was talking to me about the Pace coaching staff. So Pace has had this quarterback that's supposed to be really, really good this year, for the last 3 years. Well, he's transferred to, I believe it's Pine Forest. So he transfers to Pine Forest after 3 years. His senior year, he's gone. He spent all his time there, made all his friends there, and now he's going to go play football at Pine Forest because Pine Forest is a better program, quote unquote. And he says that we already have this kind of like transfer culture going on, and then adding in money is going to be a big problem. But my only pause on that is I think that transfers like that are going to happen a lot anyway, because some people's parents are like, my kid is, for us, like in lacrosse, like, you have your coaching 3rd and 4th graders, and you have some parents that are like, my kid's going to Hopkins to play college. I'm like, no, he's not. But I think that the money thing may actually be kind of I think it's going to end up just being like fringe benefits, because I don't know how much buying power there is. I was talking to Mike Flowers, of all people. Mike Flowers, big booster, former judge here in Okaloosa County. And he said, I think it'll end up being something akin to like, you get a kid to come down to the Wendy's in his football jersey and sign autographs for a couple hours, stuff like that.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Florida's a big powerhouse state when it comes to high school football players, and a lot of them are already thinking about college and how they're going to make their money in college and what school's going to give them the most there. But that all works backwards to high school, and I think you're going to see some of the bigger teams, continue to do well, and Niceville's going to have to decide how they want to play this. And I think it'll be bigger than just going to Wendy's in your football jersey and getting some free food. I think there's not tens, maybe hundreds of thousands to be made being the star quarterback on Niceville's football team, or star wide receiver, running back, or whatever. But I think there is opportunity for some thousands of dollars, especially if we're trying to recruit somebody in. So I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
I think the other thing will be really amazing and kind of like fun to watch grow organically out of this, to see if it's a good idea or not. Like, for example, in Odessa, in Texas, that's it, right? And Niceville is sort of close to that, in the sense that the nearest professional football team is a long ways away. The nearest college football team is, UWF has a great program in their Division II, but that's 2 hours away. Florida State's 2 hours away. Another amazing program, I might add. And
whatever. If you haven't learned yet, I am a University of Florida alum. And twice over. And
I am a Florida State guy, except for September 28th when they play SMU. And then,
Well, you just lost your 5-star recruit.
You know what? I don't need this. I don't look. But the fact that we were in the running.
I wonder what his NIL deal ended up
being. We would have been so good to him at SMU. He would have been like blown away by how we would have been courteous.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
I am interested to see how this thing plays out, and if it's the Wendy's free coupon meal thing, or if it's $10,000 in a new Trans Am.
I'm just looking forward to the anarchy. It'll be fun to watch how the dust settles.
It is gonna be chaos.
Yeah.
Anyway, coming up this week, this is City Council week, and I've been through the agendas, and real quickly I'll tell you, Mount Pleasant don't have a lot on their agenda this week. In that meeting Monday night, We won't see too much unless pandemonium invites itself into the commission chambers, as it sometimes does.
Like via open forum or something?
I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. City Council in Niceville is also meeting on Tuesday night. Not a ton there, with one little exception.
Yeah, tell us about it, because I think this could turn into a much bigger topic later.
I agree. There is a property across from, where St. Jude's Episcopal Church is.
I do know where that is, over near Powell.
So the other side of Powell from the Episcopal Church is a property that they want to turn into an Airbnb. And I do not know the intricacies of Airbnb law, with the exception that I know that the state has enforcement mechanisms that don't allow cities to say no, unless they were before a certain amount of time. But this property on Powell is asking to be put into the Airbnb pot, as it were.
And for them for asking for permission, because there's plenty in Niceville and the surrounding areas that have not.
Yes, and so this is going to go in front of the City Council, and there are far-reaching implications which you will understand better than I do, so I'm going to shut up.
Well, I mean, I think you're going to learn a lot, and therefore the rest of us will learn a lot after the City Council meeting. But Airbnb has been fairly bad for certain communities, and so our proximity to Destin and the fact that they're not building a lot more over there because they don't have any more space makes me curious on whether Airbnb sneaking across the bridge into our communities is something we really want. And so I'll be curious to see how the reporting goes on it. And I don't, maybe it turns into a bigger topic on a future show. So I don't think we have to spend a ton of time on it, but I'd be curious on your reporting on that coming out of the council meeting.
Stay tuned, because it may be interesting, and it may be a huge nothing burger. We will just have to see.
Yeah.
Finally, going to buying and selling. I think you went first last week, so
yes.
I will go first this week.
Yeah.
Based on yesterday's meeting, I am buying alternative education in Florida generally. Yep. I think that everybody wants choice in this world. Everybody wants custom in this world. And if you have the option, why wouldn't you, right?
Yep.
So it makes a lot of sense to see that stuff coming in. I do think it's going to have a similar effect, and this is my sell, on public education, because I am concerned that for people that are not like you and me, that are Catholic, and therefore this works really well for them, right? We're going to see almost like cable. Everybody got like Hulu and Netflix and all this other stuff. And so
different subscriptions.
The cable subscription, or the mandatory, I guess cable's not mandatory, but you see kind of a splintering of it, and all of a sudden there's no minimum viable product. That is what I'm concerned about. I don't think it may not come to pass. There's still cable out there, right?
Yeah.
Cox, are you there?
Live Oak's coming for you.
Yeah, no, but they are. So that is what I am concerned about, is a minimum viable product for public schooling, or at least a degradation of the product that's there. Remains to be seen. Niceville's got a great high school and elementary school and middle schools.
Sure.
But I was looking through the other schools in our county. One other school got an A, high school got an A. The other schools were Bs.
Yeah.
So Fort Walton, Choctaw, Crestview, Baker. So I would be concerned if I was not going to send my kid to a Catholic school, what might be happening in the future. So
that's your buy sell.
That is my buy sell.
Okay. So I think I'm buying NIL at the high school level only because of sort of the anarchy and fun level of it. I think college, I was totally against it, and now I'm just sort of used to it. And I think the same thing will happen at the high school level. So I'm buying NIL for high school students. I don't think it will be that significant of a change, but I would like to see how Niceville ends up implementing it, and how it affects the future of Niceville high school football. And maybe we'll get an interview with the coach one day, and they can talk about it. That would be cool. What am I selling? I saw a post today on the Book of Faces, because I can't say it the other way because they don't sponsor us.
Indeed.
But there's a homeless camp underneath Rocky Bayou Bridge, and that just makes me sad. I'm selling the fact that homeless people have to sleep under our bridges, and in our, that are in our community. And so I don't know how that's going to be addressed. We'll see how it plays out over the coming days and weeks. I know there are plenty of services available, and most of the homeless actually choose to be homeless. And so I just pray for those people, and I'm just selling that as a thing in our community.
Right on. Well, that's what we got this week. Other than my personal advice to all the NIL people, ponies have a great NIL collective. That's the other thing. You can't do collectives at the high school level, which is ridiculous. But we have a great collective, and if you are a 4 or 5 star recruit looking for a place to play ball, Southern Methodist University will take you, and we'd love to have you. Thank you.
Or maybe Midday News will sponsor a Niceville High School quarterback coming in. How about that?
Look, I ain't got NIL money right now. All right, we're getting there.
Maybe they just want to be on the news a lot.
Look at me. If you promise to commit to SMU, I'll put you in this chair all day. I will not call out of here.
That's some sort of recruiting violation.
No, it's not. Is it?
I don't know.
If that's the case, I'm not affiliated directly with Southern Methodist University or its football program. Thank you.
And for the rest of you, go Gators.
All right. See you guys later.
Adios. Be nice, Niceville.
That was good.
That was a fun one.